Hi, I'm Stacey and welcome to my book Nook. In today's video we're going to be going through my favourite books of 2022. I am super excited to tell you what they are. So, the first thing that I wanted to do before I go through my top 10 was to let you know about one that I read in December that probably goes on par with the 10th one, I would say. But it didn't quite make the cut, but I really, really loved it. And that book is The Darkening by Sonia Mara. Now, this book follows a girl called Vesper Vale, and she is the daughter of failed revolutionaries, and her mother was sentenced to die in the storm that surrounds this city, and since then she's been on the run with her father until the day that her father gets captured. And this follows her from there, pretty much. And it's got a really interesting magic system to do with sigils, or glyphs, sigils I want to say. And the storm itself is a really big element, and how it's personified almost, and all the creatures in it. So this is a YA fantasy, but it's quite different to any other YA fantasy that I've read, and I really loved it, so I would highly recommend this one. So that's, I guess, number 11. Number 10 is one that I've actually lent out to my sister already, and it's part of a series, so it's actually the last 2 books in a series, and that is the Prison Healer series by Lynette Noni. And this one follows Kiva, and she is the prison healer, and the traitor queen comes in. She is very, very sick, and Kiva is trying to heal her, but the traitor queen is sentenced to this trial, but she can't do it as she's very sick. So Kiva does it instead, and it's her story, and this has lots of magic, it's got royalty, and it's just really interesting. I really, really liked the way that it's told. It's really quick. It was really quick for me to get through, and every book just took me by surprise, I would say. So that's number 10. Number 9 is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. This was a fairy loot book, so it's very beautiful and different, and it's shiny. So this one is a retelling of Korean mythology, and it's so interesting. So it follows a girl who is not... How do I put this? Hang on. So it follows Mina, and for generations deadly storms have ravaged Mina's homeland, and her people believe the sea god, once they're protected, now curses them with death and despair. So, to appease him, each year a maiden is thrown into the sea in the hopes that one day the true bride will be chosen and end the suffering. So, people believe that Shimchong is this true bride, but she is also Mina's brother's beloved. And so instead, when Shimchong goes to sacrifice herself to the sea god, Mina dives in instead, and this brings her to this underwater realm of the sea god. It has the red string of fate in it, and I just really liked this. It was really whimsical, and I think this says that it's very Studio Ghibli, and I would agree with that. It reminds me a little bit of Wow, I can't remember what it's called. That's really good. Well done, me. I can't remember, so I'll just pop it down here. The movie that it reminds me of. Is it Spirited Away? Is that what it's called? I think it might be called Spirited Away. But it kind of reminds me of that, in that it's a different world. And I really enjoyed this. And it is number 9. Number 8 is The Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill. And this one is such a cute book. I really loved it because of the illustrations. The illustrations are just absolutely beautiful. And then the story is just a really nice, cosy tale. And I absolutely love the tea dragons, of course. I love tea, I love adorable little dragons, what's not to like? So it follows a girl who is a blacksmith apprentice, and she is starting to learn about these tea dragons. And it's just her and meeting other people, and it's just adorable. So that is my number 8. Number 7 is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. And this follows Felix as he is outed for being a trans man. And it just kind of goes on from there. You're trying to work out who outed him, and he's still trying to navigate life as a trans man. And he's also a person of colour, so it makes it doubly hard. And I just found this a really interesting perspective. I enjoyed reading about a completely different point of view to my own, and I thought it was really, really interesting. So I would highly recommend Felix Ever After. It's a contemporary tale. I think it's a college age. Don't hold me to that. I really enjoyed it. That Felix Ever After is my number 7. Number 6 was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. And I've also lent this to my sister, because why wouldn't you? So this follows a man who, I can't remember his name, sorry. Is it Wallace? I don't know. But it follows a man who dies, and he doesn't really understand. He's never been that popular in life, but this girl takes him away to this tea shop where he's supposed to eventually move on. And it's just the cutest. It's a really nice book about grief and life and death, and also tea. And it's got a bit of romance in it. I just thought it was lovely. And it's a similar kind of tone to House in the Cerulean Sea, which I also really loved from TJ Klune. That was my favourite book of 2021. So it's good. It kind of worked out pretty well for Under the Whispering Door. So that's my number 6. Number 5 is another one that I lent my sister. And it's also another Fairy Loot book. So Fairy Loot's doing quite well with me, apparently. And so number 5, you might have heard me banging on about it, is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. And let me tell you, I absolutely loved this book. I loved it with my whole heart. So this book is about Luli, who's the midnight merchant, and she makes her money finding artifacts and selling them on. And she's very good at this. Unfortunately, this kind of makes her a target because she gets brought in to see I'm sure he's not called the king, but the king. And it goes on from there. She gets sent on this mission to retrieve something, gets sent off with this prince, and there's so much interesting stuff that happens. There's a lot of mythology, there's jinn, which is amazing, there's ghouls, really creepy ghouls, and a lot of adventure. And of course, magic. Where would we be without magic? And she has a very nice jinn friend who can also shapeshift. So I absolutely loved this so much. And it is my number 5. My number 4 was Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. And this follows a girl who is a big fan of this podcast called Radio Silence, and she ends up meeting the creator, and he doesn't really want people to know who he is. And it follows their friendship and also something that happened in her past with his sister, and it has quite a lot of interesting and sometimes difficult topics that I really thought was really well done. It was really well articulated, I'm going to say. So yes, I really enjoyed that, and that is my number 4. Number 3 is something a bit different for me. It is a horror, but it's also by one of the authors that I've come to really enjoy, and that's Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. So the book is Mexican Gothic. This one is super creepy. It's got this just eerie atmosphere, and it's about a woman who gets a letter from her cousin, and her cousin is saying about how it's a worrying letter from her cousin. Her cousin has a new husband and a new family, and so she goes to their house to figure out what's wrong with her cousin. And you can straight away, it's the really, really creepy atmosphere, and it messes with her head, and I just really enjoyed that feeling of foreboding that was just throughout the book. And that's why it's my number 3. Number 2, we are getting on to top 2. Number 2, you've heard everyone talking about it because it's brilliant. That book is Babel by R.F. Kuang. Some people might call it Babel. This book is huge, first of all. It's really, really big. And it's about Robin, and he is taken from Canton in China, and he gets raised to go to Babel. Yes, he gets taken in by an English professor, and he's raised to go to Babel. But all is not as it seems at Babel. And it's a tower of translation, and he's basically raised to be a translator. But there's also really cool magic called silverworking, and it's to do with translation and words itself. And what I really enjoyed the most about this was just all the little facts and things that R.F. Kuang threw into this. It also dealt with quite tough topics, like race and colonialism and a lot of other topics like that are slipping my mind right now. But this was incredible. It was challenging, and I don't think I could read it again for a while because it did put me in a slump, because it's all I could think about for ages. So this is my number 2. My number 1 has stayed with me for such a long time, and it's partially because of the themes and the way it's written, and just how beautiful it was, and all the things that just really dug into my heart. And so my number one, you probably know what it is if you watch my channel, because I don't stop talking about it. My number one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. This is a really beautiful book. It's about Addie, and she is, I guess, cursed to live forever. So it's about Addie through the years and what happens with her. She's also cursed for people not to remember her. So it's about her and how difficult that is, and the loneliness, and then someone comes along who remembers her. And it goes from there. So it's also his story too. It's about Henry and why that is, and it's their love story, and it's got so many beautiful themes. It's a lot about art and the meaning of life, and how you can make a mark on the world, and I just really loved it. It was absolutely my number one favourite of the year, and I can't wait to read it again at some point, because it's amazing. So that's my number one. So, which books did you enjoy this year? What was your number one? And did you enjoy any of these or not, as the case may be? So let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. So if you liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.